Hey everyone, my name is Matt. In this video I'm going to show you my process of how I turn a log like this into slabs like these using my chainsaw mill. So let's get started. So the first thing I need to do to get started is I need to mount my chainsaw in the mill. That's done by sliding the bar into the clamps and then tightening down the screws. When you're bolting the chainsaw bar into the mill, you want to alternate going back and forth from the left and right to make sure that you're getting even clamping pressure across that clamp. Otherwise it'd be skewed and it wouldn't be clamping very well. Now we need some logs. Today I'm milling up these 3 sections of walnut. They're about 3 feet long and 15 inches in diameter, and I picked these up for free off Craigslist. For the first cut, the mill needs something to reference off of, so here I'm using part of an extension ladder. I drilled some holes in the ladder, which allows me to screw the ladder directly to the log. When I'm screwing down the ladder, I want to be careful that my screws don't accidentally distort the shape of the ladder, which is very easy to do. If you over tighten certain spots, you could actually put a twist into the ladder. The next thing to do is set the cut depth on the mill. You want to make sure that this initial cut, the depth is longer than the screws you used. If you hit one of those screws, you'll pretty much just ruin your chain. Don't ask how I know that. So before getting started, I'll top off my oil and gas, and I think this is the messiest pour I've ever had in my life just because I was filming it. I'll also take this time to just quickly tap out the air filter and get rid of any debris in there. I'll do all these 3 things again as I'm cutting. Every few cuts I'll stop, refill the oil and gas, and knock out my air filter. Now it's time to start the saw. For this first cut, the mill just rides right along the top of the ladder. Towards the end, I stop and insert a wedge into the kerf. That keeps the bar and chain from binding as I exit the cut. After I make the first cut, I can remove the ladder. And now we can take a look and see what the slab will look like. This is easily the most exciting part. So I want to make this first slab 3 inches thick, so I set the cut depth on the mill to 3 inches. For these subsequent cuts, the mill can reference right on top of the previous cut. So just to give you an idea of how long it takes to make each cut, this cut here took 6 minutes. For this next cut, I can leave the saw set to 3 inches because I want to make another 3-inch cut. I did, however, top off my gas and my oil, and I also cleaned my air filter. So you can kind of see here why your air filter gets clogged up so easily doing this. The saw is so close to the ground that all that dust just gets kicked back up right into the air filter and plugs it up pretty quickly. So for this next cut, it looks like I can get a 4-inch piece out of it. Just to be conservative, I just check both sides to make sure it looks good, and then I can reset my saw depth to 4 inches. Now the closer to the ground you get, the more tricky it is to do this. If it's possible, it makes it a lot easier if you can get these things raised off the ground. So after milling the other 2 logs, here's what I'm left with. I've got a few offcuts, a nice pile of sawdust, and an awesome stack of lumber. So the chainsaw mill that I use is a Panther Mill 2. There are a lot of other manufacturers out there that offer similar products. I really like this one. I'll leave a link to the website for this manufacturer in the description. With the Panther Mill, these are all custom made to order. So you can order them at any length you want. This one here is a 42-inch model, and that's the length of these bars. The nice thing here is you don't have to make any modifications to your chainsaw bar. This has a built-in clamp that allows you to clamp the mill directly to the chainsaw bar. The clamps can be moved anywhere along these rails to fit any size bar. So if you end up getting a larger mill like I have here, you can use it for both larger logs and smaller logs with a smaller bar on it. Today you saw me using my 28-inch bar on this mill, but I also have a 42-inch bar which I use for much larger logs. With the 42-inch bar on there, you get about 3 feet of cut width after you take into account the length of the tip of the bar sticking out past the clamps and then the width of the clamps themselves. You're ending up with about 36 inches. Now the one thing that I really like about this mill is that it's made out of steel. And while that might sound like a bad thing because of the weight is actually a positive in my opinion. With the added weight in the mill, that offers a lot more counterbalance as you're working the mill over the log, balancing out that power head. Now the other thing you might think is that you need a big chainsaw for this. That is, yeah, it's sort of true. You don't really need a chainsaw this large to mill logs. Really, you don't. It just really depends on your expectations. Obviously, the larger saw is going to cut a lot faster than a smaller saw, but if you're just out there cutting some small logs or just cutting really occasionally, you know, a smaller saw, such as this one, would certainly power that mill and still get the job done. It'll just take you a little longer. So one last thing worth mentioning is you can also get ripping chain for your chainsaw. That'll give you a little bit of a quicker cut and make it a little more clean and smooth. Now today I was just using my standard crosscut chain. Since on those smaller logs you really can't notice that big of a difference, and there really isn't any improvement going to a ripping chain over a crosscut chain. So I hope you found this video somewhat informative. This is just scratching the surface on milling your own lumber. There's a lot more besides this, such as going out and getting the logs, getting them back, or milling them on site, and then obviously drying them from here. But I hope this got you excited about the prospect of milling your own lumber in your backyard. and having something cool like that to use in your shop on one of your future projects. So thank you for watching as always. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about anything I talked about today, please leave me a comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.